Welcome to the USA New Times, where truth has no agenda and every story seeks peace. In a world divided, we shine a light on what unites us: honesty, justice, and love. Inspired by the words of Jesus, love your neighbor as yourself.
Okay, welcome to the US New Times, where we are discussing about the refugee crisis in Africa today. We are also going to analyze the refugee situation in Africa. We are also going to look at the causes of refugee crisis in Africa. I think that the refugee crisis is one of the major factors that is affecting the African continent in general. We are going to look at some of the causes of the refugee crisis in Africa. Some of the major causes which we all know are the civil wars, the unrest in some countries, some of the terrorist groups terrorizing the peaceful countries like Somalia and Mozambique, Nigeria. We're also going to look at part of those. We're also going to look at the statistics of current statistics of refugees in Africa, the hosting countries, the hosting communities. We are also going to look at which countries these refugees are coming from. So stay tuned to the US New Times as we come to tell you the numbers of this refugee crisis and the problem and how we think it can be solved. So we first look at when was the refugee crisis started in Africa. I would say after making a deep research, refugee crisis started earlier before 90s. That was shortly after the what I can call a post-colonial period, where we started having some civil wars on African continent. Some good examples include we had the civil war in Angola, we had civil war in Mozambique. Mozambique is in the southern part of Africa, as well as Angola is in the southern part of Africa. We also had the civil war in Uganda, where we had the current incumbent President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni trying to overthrow the government of the former President Obote, who was there for some times and was being accused of being a dictator. Between 1990 and 1994, on the African continent, we also had some kind of civil wars, liberation wars, as well as the genocide which happened in East Africa and the Rwandan country. So in 1990, from 1990 to 1994, we had a liberation war in Rwanda, where we had the RPA, Rwanda Patriotic Front, who came to liberate Rwanda after some time, after a long time of being mistreated when they were living in foreign countries. Then in 1994, we had the genocide against Tutsi, which we lost over 1 million Tutsis who were killed in cold blood in Rwanda. We also had some wars in Somalia, Sudan, as well as Sierra Leone. Those are some of the countries which we had in Africa between the period of 1990 and 1994. Going forward, in 1996, we had war in the Republic of Congo when Joseph Kabila came to power to overthrow the long-standing president Marshal Mobutu Sese Seko Desile, who was also there for decades. His powers came to end in 1996. Then we also had some other civil wars in Africa between 2000 and 2010. We had the Democratic Republic of Congo, Eritrea, Sudan, Somalia, as well as Burundi. So those are some of the wars that we have had in this between 1990 to 2010. And we're also going to look at the numbers of refugees currently hosted in Africa, together the asylum seekers as well as internally displaced persons, IDPs. We have about 7.3 million refugees in Africa. We also have 25 million IDPs, internally displaced persons. We also have 1.5 million asylum seekers, meaning that we have about 34 million persons of concerns on the African continent from different countries that I'm about to give to you. So the total numbers show that South Sudan is having about 2.3 million who fled their country because of civil war that has been there for decades now. We also have Sudan with 1.7 million, Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo with 1.1 million. We have Somalia with 800,000 refugees who are also, because of Al-Shabaab. Al-Shabaab, we know, is a group of terrorists, as well as droughts. There's a lot of droughts in Somalia. Well, it's another surprise that African continent is still having such problems after even the liberation. We also have Eritrea with 500,000. We have Central African Republic with 700,000. We have Tigray, that's a province in Ethiopia, with 300,000, as well as Nigeria. Nigeria has not experienced a civil war like these other countries compared to other countries. But Nigeria, the problem is that we have Boko Haram. Boko Haram is an Islamic group which is also working or operating or behaving like a terrorist group. We also have Rwanda. Rwanda has some refugees, but not as many as other countries, because Rwanda has created a peaceful environment to make sure that it ends the refugee crisis, as well as it was the promise of RPA to end anything that causes refugee problem to Rwandans. So far we only have 270,438 people who are still living as refugees, as per Al Jazeera and United Nations High Commission for Refugees report. We have 24,000 living in Uganda, 10,000 living in the Democratic Republic of Congo, 60,000 living in Zambia, 4,000 living in Mozambique, 4,000 living in Malawi, 2,000 living in Kenya. Those are some of the numbers of some of the countries having refugees, having their people as refugees on this continent of ours, Africa, the black continent. We're also looking at the countries that are hosting these refugees, the communities where these refugees, how is their daily life every day as we talk. Uganda is hosting 1.6 million refugees from South Sudan, Burundi, and Congo. So for the sake of those of you who have not visited Africa, Uganda is having neighbors with Congo DR on the Bunagana side, as well as Kenya, Rwanda, and South Sudan. So you don't be surprised to hear that a lot of South Sudanese are in Uganda for their safety. And then Burundis also have found their way going forward to go into that place. We also have Sudan. Sudan is hosting 1.1 million refugees from Southern Sudan, Eritrea, and Ethiopia. Same applies. These countries are also the neighbors of Sudan. We have Ethiopia, which is hosting 950,000 refugees from Eritrea, South Sudan, as well as Somalians. So they are also coming from the same area, from the same zone. We also have Chad, who is hosting 600,000 refugees from Sudan, Central Africa Republic, as well as from South Sudan. We also have Kenya. Kenya is hosting 590,000 from Somalia, South Sudan, as well as Congolese. We have Cameroon, which is having 770 from Central African Republic and Nigeria. Remember I told you the story about Nigeria. Nigeria is all about Boko Haram. We also have Democratic Republic of Congo, harboring about 530. Some of them are Burundians, Central Africa, and from Rwanda. We have Tanzania with 250,000 from Burundi, and as well as Democratic Republic of Congo. And we have Rwanda hosting 135,000 refugees from Burundi and Democratic Republic of Congo. We have South Africa hosting 250,000 from Zimbabwe, Congo, Somalia. These, most of them, are asylum seekers. So those are the numbers on the African continent. And as I told you, our topic is the crisis of refugees on the African continent. Like I told you, most of them, it's about civil wars. You know, in Southern Sudan, there's a civil war there has been a civil war for decades between the incumbent president, Salva Kiir, and his people, with the opposition leader, Riek Machar. We also have the same thing in Congo, where we have the M23 and the AFC fighting the incumbent president, Tshisekedi. We also have in other parts of Africa where you have some militias trying to disturb people. That's why you can see that we have a lot of IDPs in Africa. What can be done to make sure that we end this refugee crisis? We don't have to cry for the West, but I think what should be done is that negotiations, mediations should start so that people also come to understand that it's not time for war, but it's time to be in good boots with their people, to bring peace, to have peace, because peace is a pillar of development. I thank you so much. I'm your presenter, Innocent Abumugisha, on the US New Times. Good evening and see you tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the USA New Times, where truth has no agenda and every story seeks peace. In a world divided, we shine a light on what unites us: honesty, justice, and love. Inspired by the words of Jesus, love your neighbor as yourself,